it'll detect all of the different fans that we can control in our PC, as well as the start and stop threshold, at what percent they start moving or stop moving. Then it'll help us name and identify them to make it a bit easier to manage. Simply choose yes, and when you see this pop up, you can choose what sensors you'd like to monitor and control your fans with. More than likely, it'll just be CPU, GPU, and maybe motherboard, but there are other options here that you can tick, such as Corsair power supplies, etc. For me, I'll just hit OK, and it'll start pairing with our computer. At this stage, you'll hear all of your fans speed up to 60%, and it'll slowly raise and lower the speed of one fan at a time until it identifies all of them, as well as how controllable they really are. We'll test number 1, 2, etc. This could take a few minutes depending on how many fans you have in your system. Eventually, it'll get to controlling your fans in your graphics card, and finally, after it identifies or at least tests to see which fans are controllable, it'll start testing the start and stop percentages at which the fan blades stop spinning or of course start spinning. This will take also a while as it slowly ramps down the speed to find out when they stop spinning. It's a good idea not to have anything in the background that'll eat away at your PC's temperature, causing certain bits to overheat and possibly throttle, such as games, etc. Just have this program open. Then it'll start to see what percentages they start spinning at. Now we have a whole bunch of different options here, and all of our fans ramp up to 50%. This is where we'll be identifying them and labeling them for ease of use. For this, I'd recommend turning off one of your fans, then physically looking at your PC and finding out which fans are no longer spinning as soon as the RPM reaches 0 or at least near 0. There we go. Now have a look in your case and see which fan is currently not spinning. For me, I'll say it's the back fan. Then you can raise it up just to make sure that adequate airflow is in your system. Then we'll go down to fan number 2. Once again, stop this or possibly even raise it, depending on which way you think will be easier to spot which fan is which. You can go nuclear and turn off all of your fans in your PC, then simply enable just one of them, and it'll be super easy to see which one is spinning or at least speeding up and which ones aren't spinning at all or slowing down. Finally, after labeling all of your different fans, so for example, back, front, radiator, etc., you'll be able to click OK. But keep in mind, sometimes if you have a radiator and pump combo to water cool your PC, the pump preferably will be plugged into a pump header in your motherboard, meaning that it runs at a solid 80 or 100% all the time. If for some reason you find that one of these isn't doing anything, but it's reporting that it's spinning faster and slower, that could be your water cooling block. For this, it's always a good idea to make sure that it's setting it around maybe 75 or higher percentages, or at least until it starts making noise. This we'll get to later on, so as an example, I'll name this one AIO pump. Usually though, you won't have this as an option, as your pump will be controlled either by a separate physical controller, or it'll be plugged into a pump header where it's set to always run at 100% or something along those lines, but you can usually adjust that in BIOS. I'll click OK, and then we'll get some final few options. Definitely start this with log on and start minimized. That way, it'll appear in your taskbar in the bottom right. Finally, we can hide the redundant RPM speed section, which is this section over here telling us the speeds of all of our fans. Why is this? Well, it's already covered in the top section here under controls. Alright, now that we've labeled all of our different fans, let's get to controlling them. What do we usually need to control fans with? Well, temperature. So, at the bottom, we have curves. Currently, we have a flat curve, as in just a set number. This is set to 50% speed. I can control my back fan, for example, by either clicking the 3 dots and choosing manual control, then enabling it and dragging this to a certain speed. This will set a certain speed, tell us the RPM, and that's it. If you'd like to control it from a curve, simply disable manual control and choose the curve here. Just like that, it should be set to 50%, and that's that. We can add multiple fans to the same curve so that we can control multiple fans just by changing a number. For example, changing this to 30 changes both my front and back fans. Let's get a bit more advanced. If I choose the plus button, we have multiple options here. On the left, we have sensors, so we can combine multiple sensors, for example, to get an average speed across multiple components, such as maybe a CPU, graphics card, etc. On the right, we have all of these options here, which are curves. We have an auto fan curve, sync, flat, trigger, mix, graph, and linear.